Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. So, we are your hosts today. I'm Noelle.
I'm Lorenzo.
We're both on the client acquisition team here, but we have different roles. I do inbound, so I handle like the people that come to us first, and I walk them through their questions and help onboard them onto the process in the easiest way possible.
And I do more of the outbound, so I, do my research and find people who might not have publishing figured out and target them and then try to get them to come over to Songtrust and kind of more of an A&R role. But I also do some inbound as well, so kind of everywhere.
Yeah. All right. So for today's agenda, we hope, after this session that you'll know a lot more about the basics of the music business to ensure that you're successful, and to understand all of the elements that you need to effectively earn revenue. You'll also learn why it's important to go beyond just creating songs and to start seeing yourself as a creator, a business person, and a marketer for yourself and for your music, and to learn tips to help you get started and stay organized.
Generally, just kind of an overview of what any sort of songwriter or someone working in music should know about the business aside, just larger than just publishing, which is what we usually focus on, but there's a lot of other things that are important to know, and
Yeah,
we
so
want to
we'll be
highlight that.
going, into all the different revenue streams so you can really see the full picture of where your music is earning money and how you can make the most of those things. But we're going to put a new poll up for you guys to interact with. Have you finished at least one song, or are you still in the process of finishing your song? This can give us a better idea of where you guys are in your career and how we could better answer your questions. Okay, so the creative process.
Yeah, we're going to kind of break down what every step of the way should be looked at and how to advance your career in the creative process.
So here at Songtrust and really in like the whole publishing industry as a whole, as a songwriter, you're a creator, but that also includes composers, producers, and artists. If you're an artist that is writing and composing their own music, you have even more revenue streams that are available to you. But all of those personas are considered creators.
Yeah, we kind of, when we think about a songwriter, sometimes we don't think of it as anything other than I wrote a song, but there's actually a lot more into it. And you've created a piece of work, and there's a lot you can do with that, beyond just making a song. You created something that can be monetized.
So, as a creator, your songs are your content that you're delivering to your audience and delivering to the public, and hopefully making that available for everybody to listen to really easily is really the best thing that you could do with your work.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's hard for creative people to view their view their songwriting or their art as like content, but it's if you want to be doing the right thing in music and making a living off of it or making some money from it, it's really important to kind of view these things as something more than just a hobby or something that you do as a creative outlet. It is something that you're essentially your creator and you're creating content to be consumed by people who like it. So, yeah.
Yeah. And so when you do create that content, you have rights as a rights owner of that content. So, what happens when you write a song? So, as soon as your song is in a tangible form, this could be a demo or maybe even just written lyrics that you plan on distributing. You own the copyright and you are your own publisher. So, it's hard to picture yourself as a publisher when traditionally publishers were always seen as like these huge companies that would represent you. But when you're the sole owner of your work, you are your own publisher. And here at Songtrust, we enable you to be your own publisher on a larger scale to collect on all of these different rights. So the rights are to reproduce the work, distribute copies of the work, perform the work publicly, make a derivative work, and display the work.
Yeah, and something important to remember is when you make a song, you are essentially becoming a business person. You've created a product, and there's a lot of things that you can do with that. Just off the bat, there's a lot of rights that you have, and that's what we were highlighting here. It's really important to know that like before signing any deals, before doing anything, you own everything, and you're able to do a lot with that. In the current like music industry, there's a lot that you can do independently, and yeah.
And from all those different rights from the work, the reproducing and distributing, you have different royalties that are generated from all those uses. And those are mechanical royalties, performance royalties, and microsync royalties.
Mm.
So we'll go over, a few like more in depth about those later, but you are owed royalties for all these different uses of your work.
So multiple writers. So oftentimes, actually, when you write a song, there isn't just not just one person sitting in a room and creating every part of it. It's a collaborative effort. And one thing that we, would love to see more of as a publishing company is to see people from the beginning organizing themselves a little bit more and having split sheets, which essentially denotes which percentage of the song everyone who is involved is getting. It makes things easier on our end. It makes things easier for everyone involved. Everyone kind of is clear from the beginning of what percentage of a song they're able to get. And then once they figure out their publishing situation and you happen to be the producer on a song or something and you got 50%, you can claim that right away and you don't have to ask any questions. You know right from the beginning, before the song was even finished, that you had a certain percentage of it. And that's what a split sheet is. And yeah, that's a really important part of publishing and songwriting as a whole.
Yeah, and here's just an example. Like sometimes you could just be the sole writer or producer of your work. But like Lorenzo mentioned, oftentimes you are collaborating with others to get the best content that you feel like you can. And here's an example of four writers where they've evenly split the ownership of the song 25% each.
Mhm.
Which is, I would say, the most fair thing to
Yeah.
do for four writers.
But it really depends on what you guys agree on with whoever you're working with. If someone
Yeah.
just helped with one lyric and they're asking for publishing, you can give them 1%. It really depends on, and sometimes 1% of a song can be a really big deal. We
Mhm.
work with a lot of writers who have worked on huge songs and they have very small percentages, but that
Those
really
pennies
adds up.
add up. Yeah.
Absolutely, those pennies definitely.
Which is hard to picture like when you're just working on the song, but it's important to fight for at least a percentage of the publishing and the master recording like from the beginning, and because you don't know where that song is going to go, how popular it's going to be, and you don't want to look back and see like 100 million streams later, if I had 2% of that
Yeah.
song, maybe I could have earned a lot more money and been living a bit more comfortably.
It's a lot harder to figure that stuff out after the millions have happened, so
Yeah.
it's better to figure it out before.
Yeah. And we actually just put up a split sheet download. We have a split sheet template that we made so that you guys can use it every time you're collaborating to keep yourself organized and make sure that everybody's on the same page. And that should be like in the chat box area.
Next, we're going to just kind of go off that a little bit more and really talk about the organization that songwriters should have, or anyone working with songs. As a creator myself, I know that organization for a lot of people who make music is not a priority or the thing that they're best at. It's something that I've had to work on a lot, but it's really important to figure this stuff out. And these are kind of the basics of that.
Yeah, so it's just really important to keep all the information about your song and the creation process. So that would be like the split sheets. If you do have the codes to your song, so like the ISRC code, when it is distributed, it's important to keep those jotted down. And just any relevant information that you feel is necessary to know about your creation process, just to keep that organized, maybe in just like a Word document or a spreadsheet if you're feeling fancy.
Yeah. It's just keeping a log of everything that you're doing while you're writing the songs and making sure that everything is being somewhat talked about and organized and filed in a proper way. Just like having lyrics written down, having the split sheets ready, and just if there's text, like it just, you don't want to be in a situation where you verbally agreed on something and then down the line it turns out that it wasn't, someone's like not following up on their end of the deal. So you want to make sure that everything that you have is logged and ready. And the electronic press kit is another thing, and is just a general thing to have as a songwriter, as a musician, is just having all of your accomplishments, all of your essentially the press, what you were selling as yourself out there. And it's a really important thing. It's not talked about enough, but it's really important to have all that ready for if you're looking to play a show, if you're looking to go on tour, if you're looking to, for anything. If you're trying to sell yourself, you need to have press. You need to be able to market yourself, and that's really important.
And I think one of the most important parts of staying organized is keeping everyone's contact information that you work with. Say you do like get into a situation where maybe you didn't do a split sheet. And I come across this a lot with potential clients that I'm talking to where they're like, well, I have 50% of this song, but I've never received the royalties and I can't get a hold of my co-writer.
Yeah.
So it's really important to just make sure you have everybody's contact information and even to keep in touch, but to also prevent from future conflicts.
Yeah, music industry is small. I mean, it's really important to just have all of this stuff at your disposal, and just remember, like the general theme here is that you're a business person. You are running your own business in a way, and it's important to remember that you have to be professional and have everything ready the way you want it to be.
Okay. So the business persona. If you're writing and performing or doing either, and that's what you want to do with your career, and that's where you're trying to make a living, then you should also consider yourself a business person. This means you have to treat your songwriting or performing as a business just as much as you put creative energy into it. If you're putting all this creative energy into it and pouring your heart and soul into creating content, but you're not aware of the different revenue streams that are coming from that, then you're just going to be missing out on most of the money that you could be making.
Yeah, and also, I mean, it's important to know that everyone starts at a certain place. Like everyone is from the ground up. You're building something important for your career, and a lot of people are looking to me like they talk about, oh, I'm just a rapper, I'm just a musician, I just do this, and I want other people to help me with my management, I want people to help me with the label stuff, I just want to focus on the music, which is fine, but there's a lot of opportunity to be taken advantage of in music if you don't understand the business that you're working in. And everyone, I think personally that everyone should start out on their own and just work and figure out how publishing works, how distribution works, how the recording industry works, how touring works. All these sort of things are really important to know. And it's not always the best idea to just pass it off to somebody else who can handle it, because at the end of the day, not everyone has your best interest, and you should be the person who cares the most about what you're doing. So yeah, that's kind of just, that's a personal take on what it is to be a songwriter and a musician.
Yeah. And when you like understand all of these different facets, and then maybe you are further along in your career where you feel like you're at the point where you could work with a major label or a traditional publishing company, you'll be more prepared to negotiate for yourself and fight for your rights to keep as much copyright as you can and as much ownership of your works. And even when you're just in these conversations and you sound like you know what you're talking about, it's less common that they'll try to take advantage of you. And even just the publishing industry like was set up not to benefit songwriters, so to try to like reverse that is definitely hard, but the best you could do is just stay educated and know your rights. So now we're going to input a new poll in the chat box. Which distribution company are you currently working with? So distributors are the companies who can get your music out there to the public and make sure that they're on all major streaming and download platforms worldwide. And this is the best way to make sure that you're visible to the public and actually people can find your music on all the different platforms.
Yeah, it's honestly one of the first steps once you've created music and you've educated yourself a little bit, is finding the right distributor for you. There's tons of options, and essentially it's how you're going to get your music heard. It's the first step in getting it on Spotify and getting on Apple Music, on iTunes. It'll push it out there and it'll make it available at the very least. So it's really important, and they're all a little bit different. They all have different sort of deal structures. It really depends on what you're looking to do, and to do your research and figure out which one works best for you. And then you start earning royalties.
Yeah. And I think it's really important. Like some people that I talk to are like, oh, my music isn't on Spotify, but I'm out there performing it. But say somebody's at your performance and they really, really like what you're doing and they go to search you up on Spotify and you're not there, or they try to search you on like iTunes and you're not there. They'll probably just forget about the show and not, remember how much they liked it. But if they can find it, then they'll be able to like keep up with your career, and it's a way for you to grow a fan base.
Yeah. You want to make everything easy for people who enjoy your music and make it accessible and something that they can get to quickly. Mm-hmm. Also, just on the distribution side, what you're making from a distributor is the master and recording royalties, which is different than what we are paying out. Really important to outline that. We do collect money from organizations that collect mechanical publishing royalties, which is something that comes also from streaming services like Spotify. but it's important to remember that what we collect at Songtrust and publishing is a completely separate royalty than what an organization like DistroKid is collecting for you, or CD Baby. It's just different, and so we get a lot of questions about that, talking specifically about like what's the difference between you and X distributor, and we have to kind of explain it. And it's not an easy thing. It's pretty much what most of our job is, explaining that difference. But
It's probably the most confusing thing.
yeah, super
especially
confusing.
because there are mechanical royalties on the recording side,
Yeah.
and there are also mechanical royalties on the publishing side. So people think if they're receiving their mechanical royalties from their distributor that they're all set, when really that's not the case.
Yeah, it's important to know that stuff, and just know that there's more royalties. There's usually more royalties out there that you can be collecting, and yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to do
Oh,
another poll, which is going to be, what is your current publishing situation? And then we're going to get a little bit further into publishing.
yeah. I think we have a couple questions that we might want to go over now, just before we jump into this side of things.
Yeah.
Do you want to read those?
Yeah. So, in reference to all of the information that you should keep about your creative process, how should you store these things? Should everyone keep a physical copy? So it's really up to you, like how you keep yourself organized and where you feel most comfortable. If you like to have a hard copy of things, maybe just have it all in a folder, or if you like to have things digitally, maybe just take photos of it and have them on your phone. It's really up to you and
Yeah.
how you feel most comfortable
That's really
doing
just
that.
that's just up to you, and it's however you feel the right way to do it. Another one is, if you write the lyrics but someone else creates the music, how should it be split? Again, that's totally up to you and the person who made the music. It's just you have to determine what you guys both agree on being like the important, what who deserves what, and it's really up to you. There's not a right answer or a wrong answer. Sometimes the lyrics can be 100% of the song. Sometimes they can be none. It really just depends on what you guys agree on, and that's why this whole side of the industry is a little bit more complicated, because it's case by case, it's person by person, it's situation to situation. There's no overall answer to this stuff.
Okay. Is there a difference in split sheets for composition versus artist rights for master splits?
Um, Again, it really depends. Sometimes people have different publishing situations, and they have a totally different split on the recording side. It really depends on the situation and who you're working with. Yeah.
So it's really all case by case, as we're saying, but
Yeah. So let's just talk about this a little bit on the slide. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to make money in music, and this kind of outlines that. So the first one is performing. It's the touring, playing shows. It's the most easily understood way of making money in music, is you perform and you get paid for that performance. People buy tickets and you get paid. There's also the performance side on the publishing, but we'll get into that in a second. The second is streaming and sales. If your music is on Spotify, your music's on Apple Music, it's on Tidal, all that stuff, it's generating revenue every time someone's playing it. And that really adds up, and it's a big part of the music industry now. The other thing is making sure that your music is all on the platforms, on everything. It's accessible, kind of what we outlined earlier. And then the fourth, is there's a community, and being part of the music community is a really important part of this, and meeting people and networking and connecting with other musicians, other managers, other labels, and making sure that you're part of that is an extremely important part of furthering your career, and eventually will make money as well.
yeah.
And this all kind of ties in to publishing in every way. So when you perform publicly, you're generating performance royalties on the publishing side. When you're streaming, you're generating performance and mechanical royalties. And then all these other things are really important to that as well. Just being out there and networking and all that is all related to publishing. It's all part of the same general thing.
Yeah. So we, as a publishing company, help connect you to all these different revenue streams that are coming from your composition. So it's really important to be working with a publishing administrator so that they could be advocating on your behalf, and making sure that you're actually earning what you're owed.
Yeah. This next slide is kind of going to outline the origin of a song, and where the money is coming from, and what it means to make a song, and we'll be able to answer some questions about this.
Yeah.
Um,
So we have just the general breakdown that there are two sides of an original song that we mentioned a bit earlier, which are the composition and the master recording. So on the master recording side, which is handled by distributors and labels, we have both neighboring rights and master recording royalties, which are also known as mechanical royalties, which are just owed to the master recording.
Mhm.
And then on the other side, for composition royalties, it gets a little more complex. So the composition royalties are broken down into performance and mechanical royalties. And then those performance royalties are broken down into writers and publisher share. And the mechanical royalties are only paid out to publishers. So as you could see, there are mechanical royalties on both the composition and the master recording side. So it's important to be working with both a publisher and a distributor to access both.
Yeah, and I think we're getting a couple of questions that are related to this specifically. One is, what's the difference between Songtrust and HFA? HFA is the Harry Fox agency, and they pay out mechanical publishing royalties. So when your music is streamed or it's sold, there's a certain fraction of that money that's earned that is going to HFA that handles this stuff. Songtrust, the difference between Songtrust and HFA is that we work directly with HFA and a ton of other mechanical societies around the world, essentially just being a central hub to collect those royalties all at once without you having to go individually and request it, because you can't just sign up for HFA. It needs to be, you need to be a part of a publisher like Songtrust to be able to collect that stuff. So that's like an important distinction, is that everything on this composition side, for the most part, except for writer share, is something that Songtrust is able to help you collect.
Yeah. And a good way to picture it is HFA is one of 3 mechanical societies in the US. And then picture like on a world map all of the different all the different societies that exist in each country, and wherever your streams are happening, the society in that country is responsible for collecting those royalties. So at Songtrust, we're able to connect you to over 45 performance and mechanical societies,
Yeah.
Which does cover most of the music market.
And we're collecting from, Australia to Europe to North America, South America. We're able to get money from pretty much as well as anyone can. We're out there.
We have the largest collection network, which took us like 7 years to build, and we're still trying to grow it and expand into new markets and new music markets around the world. But it is the best way to make sure wherever your music is being streamed that you're actually accessing that.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so this is a kind of a breakdown of the writer share versus the publisher share. So when you write a song and you are putting it out like through a PRO like ASCAP or BMI, your royalties are split in 2 ways. So one is the writer share. So that's the percentage of ownership a work is attributed to the author and the composer. So that's something that we actually at Songtrust don't collect on. It's when it's paid out through your PRO, and it's something that we don't. It'll always be there, and we don't touch it at all. And then there's the publisher share, which we do collect globally, and that's the share of revenues that may be granted to a music publisher via publishing contract, depending on the type of publishing agreement. That's essentially just a long way of saying that it's just broken up into 2 factions, and we can collect that from the whole world, essentially. We make it easier and more accessible.
Yeah. So if you remember from the previous slide, there's a publisher share of the performance royalties, and then the mechanical royalties are only paid out to publishers. So that's what would be coming through your Songtrust account if you are a client.
Yeah.
And then you receive your writer's share directly from your PRO, and we don't touch that. That's just for you.
If you don't have a publisher, which is often the case, you're still eligible to collect the publisher share. It's just we as Songtrust and a more a larger publisher essentially is able to get those royalties from a lot of different places rather than just one PRO, one ASCAP or BMI. There's a lot more to be collected, and that's what the publisher handles, is getting those international royalties and mechanical royalties. And yeah, there's a lot more to be collected on.
Yeah. And it's important to know that as a songwriter and composer, you have to be affiliated with a PRO. So in the US, we have ASCAP and BMI. Maybe if you're over in the UK, there's PRS. But in order for a publishing administrator like Songtrust to register works on your behalf, you need to have that affiliation because that gives you your IPI number. And if you aren't already affiliated with a PRO, we are able to affiliate you with either ASCAP, BMI, or SOCAN. That's the Canadian PRO who allows us to register international writers. So we're able to do that for you free of charge if you haven't already taken that step. But you will be affiliated with a PRO in order to access any of these royalties.
So this next slide is a really good, important thing. So take note on this. Is kind of breaking down the types of royalties we make through publishing. The one that most people understand is the performance royalty. So when your music is streamed or played in a restaurant, a bar, or you're performing it at a venue, anything, or it's played on radio, it's hitting this license fee that the space is paying for. And so when you're in that environment, that money is being sent to a PRO like ASCAP in America. If it's in Canada, it's called SOCAN. There's tons of these different organizations, and they all are responsible for going after these public spaces that are playing music and making sure that the people who are being played there are being compensated for it. That's like the most standard. Everyone kind of gets that when you're signing up with a PRO. That's what you're getting.
And then the performance royalties are also generated from streaming. So, say your song is being streamed in a public space, or even like terrestrial radio, those also generate performance royalties. And then next, we have mechanical royalties, which are generated when your song is digitally streamed or physically reproduced. So, this could be like a CD, a vinyl, or digital download from iTunes or Amazon. But also mainly streaming services, which is what we've seen most of the income be for our clients. And it is a lot larger than what we've been seeing on the performance side.
It's just with streaming and the accessibility of music to music it's really a big part of publishing now. And a lot of people don't know that when your music is streamed, you like on the mechanical side, things like ASCAP and PROs aren't collecting that. So it's just sitting there and waiting to be collected. So that's what we at Songtrust are able to do, is that we are able to go after both the performance and the mechanical royalties to make sure that that's getting paid out to you.
Yeah. And we also collect on microsync royalties, which are the royalties earned from the use of your music in videos, specifically on YouTube. So if you have maybe your distributor is placing your music on YouTube, or you notice like a YouTube channel that's using your song, if your song is in that YouTube video, you should be earning royalties from that as long as it has met certain requirements. And you could see more information and like learn a little bit more about the YouTube royalty collection in our World of Music Publishing royalties webinar. I know that we put the link in the chat box. So you could definitely check that out to learn more about that. That's a whole nother rabbit hole that we're not going to go down right now. We would be here for hours, but
yeah, and just so you know, we see all your questions. We're going to do a big Q&A at the end, and we'll be able to answer a lot of that. So keep sending them in. We're not ignoring you. And so this is, we're going to talk a little bit more about like the mentors and the networking aspect of this. There's a lot of different communities for artists, and I'm sure a lot of people in the chat know about this, that you can be a part of if you're making a specific kind of electronic music called vaporwave. Like there's a lot of communities out there where you can just like talk about it and just learn from each other. And I think we're outlining this because Songtrust has like a Facebook group that anyone who uses Songtrust or anyone who is interested in it can join and just be a part of this community that Songtrust is, and help each other learn about these things. If there's questions or concerns, like it's really important to have a community behind you that is helping you along the way. And that's I think we're going to send a link out in the chat to that. Cool.
And it's also like these are your potential collaborators as well. If you're looking to like try something new or experiment with your music, you could always collaborate with other people in your community, or maybe somebody in a different genre that you haven't tried out before that you're interested in. So it's just a good way to keep experimenting and keep your music fresh and new.
Yeah, music doesn't always have to be a solo thing. And I know we're kind of pushing that, like, you should be your own boss, and you should remember that you're running your own business and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, like, music is a collaborative thing, and so is the business side. It's important to remember that people have answers to these questions. And I mean, I think a lot of you guys know that you're all asking questions to each other in the chat box or into the chat room. And it's just the fact that you're here, you're curious, and it's important to remain curious about this stuff.
Yeah. And we're going to input a new poll in the chat box. What is your number one way to market your music to the public? Because now we're going to get into the marketing aspect and how you can market yourself and your music. And what we refer to here as the three C's are creator, content, and career. So you're a creator, you're creating content, and that is your career. So you should be marketing yourself as that and
Yep.
trying to get that out as much as possible.
Yeah, you have a brand. I mean, if you're making music, there's a feeling, there's something behind that, and you should be aware that it's bigger than just the song. There's an image, and some people don't like talking about that and don't like thinking about it, but you've created something that there needs to be some sort of branding behind it, and it's important to know that you're, as well as a business person, you're also a marketer.
Yeah. And even like in today's like crazy social media age where social media kind of runs everything, it's important to just keep that in mind that if you're not keeping up with all of these trends and marketing yourself to the best of your ability, then you're kind of like falling behind the curve a little bit.
Yeah.
So in addition to like working with a distributor and having a publisher, there is other ways that you can make the most out of your songs.
Yeah. And it's just like building a fan base, just being on on the social media, and making sure that your music is being put out there, and you're, participating in the conversation as a whole. Be creative, hire, if you can afford to, hire graphic designers or learn how to do it yourself. Just have content to put out there that it is, not just the same thing, and you're not just repeating yourself. Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, there's tons of things here.
Yeah, like sharing and making playlists could be a really good way
Yeah.
to get your music out there. Maybe if you like share other people's songs on your playlist, they'll do the same for you. You could create these relationships with people who make playlists. That's always a good way to earn more listeners and to direct traffic to your social channels. I like to think like it's a really good idea to have your social channels all be really cohesive.
Yeah.
So if you're sharing maybe the link to your new single on your Instagram page, it's also probably a good idea to share that on your Twitter and
Yeah.
your Facebook and wherever else you're promoting yourself. That way, there's always a place for people to find
Yeah.
the links, no matter what platform they're using.
And the thing that I've noticed a lot in my time working here and doing outbound specifically is a lot of songwriters or musicians aren't connecting an email to their social media. So like if you don't have an email address on your SoundCloud, or if you don't have it on Facebook, it's really hard to get in touch with you. And it's one of the biggest mistakes that I see is that if someone's trying to reach out to you to collaborate, or someone's trying to reach out to you to see if you want to do this tour or anything like that, you need to have open communication. And like I reach out to people all the time for Songtrust, and I'm trying to explain it to them, and I try to get them on the phone. But if I can't find an email address, it makes my job a lot harder to reach out to them. And yeah, it's really important to have your email address connected on everything, because that's how most people are still communicating. I know a lot of people advocate for DMing and stuff, and DMing on Instagram, but a lot of the time, if it's like an important person, they're just gonna not figure that out. And it's a lot
Yeah.
easier just have an email address, because people, that's just the way it goes still.
Yeah. The most ways that you could possibly get your contact information out there is the best. So
Yeah.
you can have your DM open, you could have your Instagram private, I mean public.
Yeah.
But just to have your email out there is just an additional tool that you could use to get
Absolutely.
and advocate for yourself.
And connect your social medias across platforms too. If you're huge on SoundCloud or something, and you want to get more of that following over to your Twitter, make sure that your Twitter is linked there so people can find that, and make everything accessible and easy. The easier you make it for people to find your music and to find out how to connect with you, the better you'll notice the results. You'll get more followers, you'll get more streams. It'll just work out better.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It sounds basic, but that actually is like a really big thing.
It sounds repetitive almost,
Yeah.
but it's just like trying to get this point across is really important, and it's the best way for you, like as an independent artist or label or publishing company, to just advocate for yourself and make the most out of what you're doing.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess we're going to talk now about YouTube a little bit. This is a question, questions related to YouTube come in a lot. About how to go about being a YouTuber and how to monetize that, and make sure that you're making all the money that you can from it. Because a lot of people are seeing, there's a lot of people watching YouTube, so there's a lot of streams happening, and people have a lot of questions about it. So yeah, just being on YouTube, if you are in that market, is to make content, be consistent about it, collaborate with others, build. It's essentially just the same thing as any other social media. You're just promoting yourself and you're building it, but you have the ability to put yourself on video and put your music out there on this massive network. It's actually, I mean, YouTube is the biggest streaming service, and that's like kind of overlooked because we think about Spotify and Apple Music, but YouTube is still where most people are listening to music every day. And so yeah, make sure your music is out there for that. In terms of the royalty collection on YouTube, there's two ways you can. Well, there's a few ways you can make money on YouTube. Um, One that most people are aware of is the ad revenue. So when you reach a certain level, or someone who is using your music for whatever reason reaches a certain level, they can put ads on the video and they can monetize their music, their video content that way. And that's like the most basic. And a lot of people get very confused about how we monetize, or we are able to collect YouTube royalties, because it's a lot of people just think it's ad revenue, and it's bigger than that.
Yeah. Well, the ad revenue that so if there's any ad on a video, that ad revenue gets split up into, the visual, the recording, and the composition. So all the different owners of the content that's up there are owed royalties, and that ad money is split up amongst all of them. So you could use a publisher or a third-party monetization service. At Songtrust, we have a direct agreement with YouTube where we could place claims on videos using your songs and collect those composition royalties that are owed.
Yeah.
But you should definitely look out for future webinars on this about making the most of your YouTube channel. We know there's a lot of interest in this, and it's something you guys are interested in learning more about. But like I said, we also have a YouTube royalties webinar that you could find on the interactive events page.
Yeah, just so we're clear with the people that are here, when you create a Songtrust account, there's also a YouTube monitor. And if you have any videos that are on your own channel, or that are, there people are using your music on their channels for whatever reason, you can claim the publishing through Songtrust. So you can go and put the link in, or it'll actually generate a list based on the songs that you put into our system. And then you can claim those videos. And it won't be a takedown notice for the people who are using your content. It's more of just they'll get a notification saying that the writer of this song is claiming publishing royalties on the video that you uploaded.
Right, and it wouldn't take away from their revenue because they wouldn't be collecting.
They're not able to collect on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And lastly, we're just going to talk about how important it is to educate yourself and stay current in the industry, and also advocate for yourself as a creator, business person / marketer.
Yeah. And yeah, it's just important. I mean, just like any other business, you got to stay on top of what's happening. Always be learning, making sure that you're always aware that there's changes in the music industry. Like, I remember being in college, like 2012, and I think Spotify was just starting like to become a thing. And
in the US,
and by the time I graduated, it was like the only thing people were doing anymore. Like, we were all downloading albums, and now I don't have a single album on my computer directly.
Yeah,
it's crazy how things have changed. Like, and people think about it this way. They're like, oh, well, it's like went from the vinyl to cassette to CD to digital, but there's a lot of different steps, and there's game changers that are happening every year in music. So it's really important to remember that what's happening now might not be relevant in a year, and just being on top of that is really important.
Yeah. And to also just like advocate for yourself and for your fellow songwriters and composers, and to just always keep that in mind, that you are rights owners, and to advocate for yourselves is really important. To endorse and show support for the legislation that supports songwriters. So with the current bill that was passed, a lot of people got behind that, which helped just gain visibility to the bill, and eventually probably helped it get passed. But it's just really important to keep educated on these things and stay current. Now we're going to put another poll up in the chat box. Would you be interested in seeing a demo of the Songtrust platform? So we're going to put that in there, and let us know if that's something you'd be interested in seeing.
Future webinars.
So you could see how the accounts look and how you would use it to the best of your ability, and we just give you an inside look of a Songtrust account. Okay, so now we're going to get a little bit into Songtrust and how we help creators access all of their publishing royalties. We're a global publishing administrator, so we help connect our clients to all these different societies that we mentioned, so that they could access all of their composition royalties. And for those of you who aren't clients yet, we'd like to offer you a 15% discount to sign up with Songtrust. We have a one-time sign-up fee of $100, so you'd be able to sign up for 85 as a thank you for joining us and interacting with our webinar. We really appreciate it. And
Yeah.
okay.
So yeah, Songtrust is a massive platform. We have over 150,000 songwriters registered with us, who are all collecting their global publishing royalties through us directly. We have 20,000 music publishers, and we have over 1 million individual copyrights that we're working with. So we're a massive platform, and we kind of help everyone in different positions of their careers. But that's essentially what we were able to build with Songtrust, is a platform that's makes publishing accessible to anyone from who's just starting out to someone who's been in the music industry for years.
Yeah, like we have both sides of the spectrum, where we have people who are just writing their first song and they want to make sure it's registered correctly, and then we have huge artists who have been in the music industry for years who don't want to give up their copyrights to a traditional publisher. They just want to collect on their royalties. So it's kind of a no-brainer for them to come to us and have us do all of this admin work and take that off their plate and kind of take the worry of like, well, what am I receiving the correct amounts? Where are they coming from? You're able to see the breakdown of that all in your account. So it's a really good tool and a way to keep everything in one place also. So it's super flexible DIY solution to publishing, and we only have a minimum 1-year term length. We pay out 4 times a year, so quarterly, and you only have to register the songs that you want us to represent. So if it's just a portion of your catalog that you're not currently collecting on, you could use us to collect on that. It is a song by song agreement, so you just give us whichever songs you want to collect on. But for those songs that you give to us, you keep 100% of the copyright and you control your sync rights.
Yeah, there's a lot of control that you keep with Songtrust. You're essentially just giving us permission to go after certain royalties that you can't collect on your own, but you remain in control of your catalog entirely.
Yeah, and our 15% fee is just a commission on the publisher's share, which is the royalties that would be coming through your Songtrust account. So if you remember from the other slide, the performance royalties have both a writer's and publisher share. You would just be receiving the publisher share through your Songtrust account, as well as the publisher mechanicals, which are only paid out to publishers. So you would receive your writer's share of your performance royalties directly from your PRO, and we don't touch that. But you could just take a look at the traditional publishing deal terms and see how not flexible they are. And they're pretty much the opposite of our terms. So we try to really put the power in your hands to take control of your own publishing.
Yeah, I think we're going to kind of answer some of the questions that were popping up a lot in the chat. Let's kind of use the one.
So this is definitely one of the most asked questions that I get. What is your relationship with Sound Exchange? And a lot of people want to know, can I be with both Sound Exchange and Songtrust? So Sound Exchange is the organization in the US who collects on neighboring rights royalties. And those are actually like non-interactive streaming royalties. So this could be like free Pandora accounts, Sirius XM.
Yeah, it's really important if you're doing well on those platforms and if you're getting some radio play.
Yeah,
but
like college radio too.
Any internet radio as a whole. But if you're there's no conflict between what we do and what Sound Exchange does. So we recommend anyone goes with them as well to maximize their collection efforts for sure.
Yeah, those royalties are technically owed to the master recording, which is why they don't conflict with what we do here, which is only composition based.
Yeah. It's a little far for me.
So is it just a one-time fee for all future songs or after each song, each album?
So yeah, there's a one-time sign-up fee that will cover you as a writer. So it's per writer. So if you're just a solo writer, there's a one-time fee, and then you get 50 free songs. And then after that, you have to pay for the songs, but that's a hefty amount of songs depending on what you're doing. But yeah, there's only a one fee, and then we take a commission of 15% of what we're able to collect on your behalf.
Yeah.
Super standard, super flat fee. And I saw another question that was asking you, like, do we take 15% of the mechanicals or publishing as a whole? We take of the whole pie. We just take 15% of what we're able to get.
Yeah. And so you could think of it like 15% off the top each quarter. That's
Yeah,
probably the easiest way to think about it. Okay. So I already have a publishing company set up at ASCAP. What more does a company like Songtrust add to my revenue collection?
So that's a good question. It comes up a lot too, because when you make an ASCAP account, you're required to make a publisher and a writer account. So what you're essentially getting with Songtrust that you're not able to get with an ASCAP publisher is that we're able to collect from 45 different other societies and mechanical societies that ASCAP does not directly collect from. So we're going directly to the Italian PRO and the Canadian PRO and the German PRO, and we're saying, hey, if you have any royalties for this song, for this writer that you haven't paid out, or anything going forward, it needs to go through us directly. And we don't use sub publishers, which is a big thing. A lot of companies will use. Sometimes when you get international royalties through ASCAP, it'll go through a sub publisher first who takes a percentage, and then it goes to ASCAP who takes a percentage. When you're using Songtrust directly, no one takes a cut other than us, and that's it. It's just a lot less hands are being passed. And it's a lot quicker as well because we go directly. So yeah, you're getting, if with ASCAP, you're, as a publisher, you're getting both publisher and writer share in the US primarily, but with a company like Songtrust, you're getting global collection on the performance and mechanical side, which is the part that ASCAP doesn't even collect. So you're getting a lot more royalties from a lot more places when you go directly through Songtrust.
Yes, definitely. Okay, so is it possible to register a doing business as name, so like a sole proprietorship with Songtrust, or use our individual name? So you could create the account with your company name if you'd like, or maybe your name if you're going to be the person managing the account. What's really important is when you do create the account that you add either yourself or all the songwriters slash composers that you're representing as songwriters to the account with their legal name and provide their IPI number from their PRO. You're able to connect, if you do have a publishing company already, you're able to connect that publishing company to each songwriter that you add, so that we're technically doing like the back end publishing admin for your publishing company. If you don't have a publishing company, there's no need to set one up. You would have access to the same amount of royalties either way. It would just be like an additional fee at the PRO if you decide to create a publishing company.
Yeah, I'm seeing some questions about ASCAP and BMI and using Songtrust. You can actually, if you're not registered with a PRO currently, you can actually register for one directly through our platform. So you can, when you sign up for Songtrust, the first question that's asked is, are you with a PRO? Yes or no. If you are, you'll just put in that information. If you aren't, you're going to have to register for one, but you can do it directly through our platform. You need to have a home-based PRO, and this is true for any publishing deal out there. Anyone from like Kendrick Lamar to Beyonce or whatever, they're all on the PROs as well. You need to have that home base regardless of your status.
Yeah, the PROs give you what's called an IPI number, and that way you could have a publisher or a publishing administrator registering songs on your behalf, and they'll all be tied to that number, so nothing gets lost and everything's organized. And it calls for a lot cleaner data at the societies to make sure that nothing is falling through the cracks.
Yeah.
When it comes to your royalties. So let's do another question. Okay, if I am registered with a PRO and receiving streaming royalties through a distribution company, shouldn't I be receiving royalties from my PRO? So you would be receiving royalties from your PRO, but they are only the performance royalties from the US. You have to work with...
If you're in the US.
Yeah, if you're in the US. If you're affiliated with SOCAN in Canada, then you'd be receiving like your local performance royalties from there. But in order to access your global performance and mechanical royalties, you could work with a company like Songtrust to collect on all of those.
Yeah.
Okay.
But also, it's important to remember that publishing moves a lot slower than distribution, or on the master side. A lot of people know this, but if you're getting streams on Spotify, you're getting paid out every month. I think there might be a 2-month delay, but you're getting paid at the end of every month. For Songtrust, you get paid out at the end of every quarter, but it's almost like a year delayed. So everything is really behind, and it's just the platform. It's just the system as it is. It's everyone has to deal with it. It's not ideal, but things move pretty slowly in publishing.
Yeah, it's just the way that the industry was set up, and there's so many different steps that need to be taken at the society level. So like if your music is streaming on Spotify, Spotify has to pay the performance and mechanical royalties to each society where the stream happened. And then from that society, they do like a one-to-one match with the registered song. So it's just like super complicated, and that's why it's always really delayed. But like Lorenzo said, that's the case for all publishers. there's not much that we could do about the timeline of the societies.
Yeah.
But the global, like if you were to sign up today and add your songs to your account, the global registration process takes about 6 to 9 months. So you would start to receive royalties in that following quarter. And then as long as you have $5 of earned royalties in your account, then you would be receiving a direct deposit payment.
Yeah.
So we're going to put up the songwriter checklist, which is, the basis of this whole webinar and what we'd like to give to you guys to make sure that you're taking advantage of all the different revenue streams that are happening. So we're putting the checklist to download, and you could share that, download it just for yourself, whatever you feel like doing with it. But definitely use that to your advantage and to help educate even like your friends and collaborators as well. And then we're going to do probably like 2 more questions because we are running out of time.
Yeah.
Okay, so here I have, do I get paid on the publishing side as a producer? Am I considered a writer? So as a producer in the world of publishing, you are considered a songwriter/composer. So you, as long as you own a portion of the publishing, which would be on the split sheet, then you would be receiving or should be receiving publishing royalties.
Yeah, and it depends on the deal that you're doing with the artist that you're working with, or whatever platform you're working on. You need to make sure that the contract and the conversations that you had align with that to claim the royalties. But it's really important to go into any meetings. If you're a producer and you're working with artists all the time, it's really important to know before you start working with them how the deal is going to be structured if they end up using the song. So if you make a beat and you're working with a rapper, it's really important to know before they even do anything that you are going to be owed X amount, and you're going to be claiming X amount of the percentage of the publisher share or the writer share. And just knowing like that is really important and key to succeeding and making sure that you're making money off the work you're doing.
Yeah. Okay. And this is going to be our last question. So as a producer, if I create the beat and the songwriter/artist creates the lyrics, do we both have to do the publishing, or does just the artist have to do it? So you would both have to handle your own share of the song. So say you own 50% of the song and the artist owns 50, you would each have to register the song with those splits to collect on your ownership.
Yeah.
So if the artist is registering the song, that does not mean that you're going to get your royalties from that. You have to register the song for your ownership, and then you're able to collect on that 50% ownership as well.
And then through Songtrust, you can claim any percentage that you have.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have 10% of a song or 100%, you can claim whatever you're owed through us, and we'll only collect your percentage.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us and interacting so much in the chat box. We really appreciate it, and definitely look out for our next one. We're going to be doing a lot this year.